Yup, it's Dosblop. This video's subject will be on my perspective on where Pokemon is now, and ideas that could make Pokemon an overall better experience, so it will be mostly opinionated. With that said, let's get to the topic. Pokemon has been around for almost 25 years, or by the time you are watching, it is already. I have been closely following the Pokemon games for around 10 years now, and it's safe to say that it's sadly stayed the same for years, with minimal changes, or in other words, stagnant. There have been several mainline games since 2010, which were Black and White and their sequels, X and Y, Sun and Moon, and just recently Sword and Shield. This is a lot of main titles released within a decade, but what has each one done new since the inception of the franchise? Black and White and their sequels are considered one of the best Pokemon experiences ever, having over 150 new Pokemon which were the only catchable Pokemon in those games, well, before Black and White too. The best story, and many features such as the season cycle, the first games to have animated sprites for Pokemon, and so on. They were essentially a refresh of Pokemon titles and are among my favorite games ever. The gen after was X and Y, the first 3D Pokemon title ever. Despite being one of the least looked upon, it introduced some very cool things such as the fairy typing and Pokemon Ami, which has technically been in every game since, which lets you interact with your own Pokemon. There wasn't very much, but it still brought some cool stuff. Pokemon X and Y are considered the easiest Pokemon games in the franchise, with the experience share being forced, which is something Game Freak keeps doing, something I'll talk more about later. Overall, X and Y were pretty lackluster, and not many people liked them. Generation 7, which was Sun and Moon and their Ultra counterparts, was the last generation on a Nintendo handheld. It included features such as the replacements of gyms into island trials, the introduction to a beloved feature known as regional forms, realistic human proportions, and more. This generation brought back the regular experience share, which was a welcome surprise. However, due to the lack of freedom due to the game holding your hand almost every step along the way, fans see this as another X and Y or an easy game. Ultra Sun and Moon were essentially enhancements of the regular games, just like any third version of the regular games. Sun and Moon are actually known as pretty good games considering that they came after X and Y, and they had a lot of problems still, but fans seem to like them more, and I seem to like them more. Now the most current generation, released in November 2019, is Generation 8, or Pokemon Sword and Shield. These games faced massive criticism due to the cut Pokemon announcement at E3, and had overall bad graphics. This is the first real installment of a mainline Pokemon title on a console, with a few quality of life changes, the first of having an open world like area in the game, although not executed very well. It brings back gyms in a more exciting fashion and is used as the main plot of the story pretty much. However, it went back to the experience share, making it the exact same thing as in X and Y. They broke something they fixed, and you can't even turn it off. Sword and Shield have the most backlash out of all the Pokemon games, and for a reason. Now with all that information, you could pretty much tell that Pokemon has stayed the same for a very long time. Only few features are added each gen, with other features getting cut such as the very immersive seasonal cycle in Gen 5, triple battles, and even HMs. Things like the experience share changing each game, and features and even Pokemon being cut make the game pretty bad, especially when the experience share is such a main part of the game now. Not to mention the post-game has been pretty lackluster since Gen 6, with a few hours of playtime at most. This is why I think the Pokemon franchise needs a refresh, for the better, and here are some ways I think Game Freak could accomplish this. I think the formula, which has sticked around since the very beginning, should change. Instead of it always having the same similar plot where you go from town to town, I think you should be free to explore to anywhere, which is why Pokemon would benefit from being more open world than linear and regurgitated. One way an open world could be tackled is like Breath of the Wild, where the world is yours to explore, or if they want to stick with routes, have them be more traditional, like having pathways on routes that lead to rare Pokemon or new places and don't branch to the same pathway, like in older games such as Black and White. Having an open world would give an incentive to players to come back to the game so they could maybe experience a secret event that's not known by anyone else. This is why the wild area is a good step forward, but it needs to be executed better, which it actually was in the DLC of Sword and Shield with the Isle of Armor, where they did have more traditional stuff, but it wasn't routes, it was an open world area. Roaming Pokemon could also be done better, like having them actually interact with the environment in some way, or even have a rare chance at having a legendary come out of nowhere. Things like battle mechanics such as power points, or PP, should be replaced with energy or something like mana. This would be a grand change to the competitive scene, and people would actually have to be careful of what move they use, which would be a better and modern way of doing it instead of not having to worry about moves at all. The story could either be better or not be there at all. That's what I'd rather choose at this point. The stories in the last games have been pretty bad, which of course it is. It's Pokemon, but they accomplished it in Gen 5 with at least having a good and unique story with Team Plasma and N, so I am pretty sure they can come up with another story that's good. Maybe have multiple side stories instead of focusing on one major event the entire way, or have the player make choices that affect the story in some way. Gyms are very good in Sword and Shield, but I'd rather see more than 8. Have 2 leagues, a junior league and a veteran league, where they all have 8 or so gyms that you have to challenge and have them all be in different order. That would be cool. Have bosses at the end of routes like Totem Pokemon in Sun and Moon, or just have them everywhere. But it's up to Game Freak whether they improve or stay the same, but I hope they do stuff that enhance the experience. Pokemon has so much potential, yet it always misses out on everything it could do. Game Freak needs to put more effort into their games, and that needs to start with having more time to do things and not being rushed. You could say that the games are fine as they are, but in my own opinion, they could be way better. It needs a big refresh that will change the games forever, and not just last for one gen. Anyways, that's about it. See ya.